We're on set here, and yeah, so this is day one of filming, sort of test shots really for the teaser sequence. And I just wanted to have a little bit of what's going on and just go on because I don't think there's any more this evening. We started real late, so I want to end here. However, the test shots, here we have the two bridges and there's the transformer, unfinished transformer one here. So we had to build the other set because it's easier to film it that way, to have there be a physical, at least a small version of their other set, so that there's to be any like indoor room scene, we can do that in that over there. And then we have the bridges. So we want to do all the bridges and their bridge too, is the idea. Because otherwise it's confusing. So that's what's going on. And sure to see what the characters look like, how they're interacting. If you've not yet chosen the Transformers, that may be a little more difficult. So I wanted to end for the evening, just because yeah, it's gonna require some finagling to make this one look good. Yeah, more sophisticated than the other episodes of the Mush would be. So yeah, it's Transformers meets Star Trek, of course. Yeah, Starship Chimera slash Mush movie. It's kind of what it is. So it's a Mush movie with Star Trek in it, or it's a Star Trek Locations movie with Mush in it. And it's on both channels. It'll go up on both. And it's technically not canon with either. It's technically the kind of the Netflix show they're following instead of the Mush. So yeah, because and they're technically following Starship Locations, but kind of not, kind of sort of just for fun. Want to do a crossover for many years of something. And this is a Transformers. There's the two great franchises with like Star Trek and Transformers. It's about time they do a crossover. It's easy to do a Robotech one or a G.I. Joe one, but Star Trek, they're almost the scale of the Transformers. You gotta fix that. So that's, yeah. So that's it for tonight. So we figure that out. Yeah, this is, yeah, who's shooting this? Clint Cowpoke's shooting it. Okay, so we're gonna do some retakes from the teaser to make this a little bit more intuitive, places for characters. Yeah, it was boxed in. It was kind of weird. I know it would be later anyway, but in order to make this, yeah, this comedy scene work, I'm doing this over. This part where these two guys are talking, because I want them in the, yeah, and they're really boxed in, but there's no room. That's why they're boxed in. It's like there's just no room. So yeah, you can see that. See him there. So I'm gonna start filming. Yeah. So there's a slight script revision, but you won't notice visually. And I guess this is making of kind of. We want to have them have escaped from the bridge before the Decepticons board the ship, because otherwise it doesn't make sense when they cut the power off. So this is before they boarded the ship. So that's what this is. Prize Hunter and Koloff, some of the villains. I'm not sure if Shadow is in that scene, is he? Yes. Like, are you? Stop where you are. Okay, Shadow is elsewhere with the Decepticons. So Prize Hunter, Critical, Koloff, and Cyrano. So now I guess this is a little bit of a making of. We're going to get to the end of 11 here. Today 12, because that's when it switches to the story of Sale of the 24th Century. That's when it switches to that, and they're on the Bird of Prey. Visually, it's weird that they're sort of limbo on this scene, where they're either on the ship or the cargo bay or something. I don't think the Maximals are physically on the bridge, but they could be, I guess. We could do that, just to put them on the bridge. and then have the others leave to go to the bird of prey. Yeah, I could do that. I could make this the bridge, like it says at the top. Where's Clint Cowpoke here? We finished up what should have been. This is technically the first day of filming. Well, first full day of filming, but it was broken up into little pieces, so that was more like the first 11 pages of filming, which is real slow. We managed to get through the teaser, just the teaser, and up to the end of the bumper. Basically, there's like 11 pages of bumper that combines Sail of the 24th Century with the Silly Trek story. So like it kind of leads up to that, and then the Silly Trek story. In the original script, the villains were supposed to have beamed off, but they didn't. Only one of them did. Well, technically two of them did. So some of them got left behind. So they're either there or they're not. So yeah, it's supposed to just be Prize Hunter that beamed off, and only in this timeline. In the real timeline, he's arrested, space prison or whatever. But in this timeline, he got intercepted. And the Decepticons took him. Yeah, so so I added a little bit with the Let's Go Fast thing at the end. But yeah, we get to see the ship and the bird of prey. We have a bird of prey model that we used before. We're going to break it out and film new footage of the bird of prey moving around. Yeah, so we'll do that later in post. So we have so this is your Starship Locations movie, crossed with your Transformers Mush movie together, and then later on both channels. Anyway, so we have set up for trying to make the Predacons and Maximals look right, and it turns out the Maximals from the Netflix show are the right scale for the humans in the shot. The Transformers would be taller though, so when the Transformers show up, they will be taller than the Maximal humans, and the Maximals, like the tiger one and the wolf and the monkey one, are probably not much bigger than the humans. So scale wise, they're the right size, but the car ones would be taller. So that'll be interesting how they're going to pull that off. Also, yeah, Shadow Dancer needs to be on the Klingon ship with the others for the scene where he developed Cillian powers, which he has apparently. Well, he had cosmic powers in that, and when they introduced him, so yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so I don't know why they have a space bridge on the Emmett Till, but they do apparently. Why they just have one, just in case the Transformers need to use it. Anyway, so we're going to finish for the evening. That's pretty much it. I don't know how much of this will actually do tonight, but we'll see. This is Hound and Cyrano in the other universe. Hound is apparently in this universe supposed to be Swindle, but it's Hound, just because like Swindle is boring if he encounters Quark. That's stupid. So no, it's like that was the whole point of the story. But no, Hound is interesting because he can be like a wrecker. So he's a wrecker, so he's on both sides. He's playing both sides, which is more interesting than Swindle, having Hound do it. So let's try this, okay? Yeah. Well, this here's Clint Cowpoke again. I'll just do two little beef scenes there. The alternate universe where we have Cyrano with Hound. Well, he's sort of negative Hound. He's sort of like Wrecker Hound, basically. This universe, the factions are messed up because of the... Well, they're kind of like in the Netflix show, basically. Okay, they're like in the Netflix show. So yeah, they're like that. The kingdom, the Morph Cybertron kingdom and all that stuff. Which is essentially also mush. It's also Corrosion of War. It's the same story. But in this version, we have this sort of... Originally, it was supposed to be Swindle. So it was Swindle meeting Quark because they swindle people. And I thought that was kind of lame. And they meet Deep Space Nine. But Deep Space Nine is so far in the past that they said that would not be realistic to do. the modern audience. So no, it's our heroes and our villains playing the characters instead. But you can kind of tell who they were supposed to be a little bit. I mean, you have later on you'll have Critical Vitriol playing Odo and stuff like that. So you have Nog playing Quark, and that's fine. And Javon playing Cisco because he looks like Cisco, and some other characters. And the Bird of Prey stuff is later on in the next act, but here, and it's over here on the set. Move the Bird of Prey set over here. There it is, and that's over there, and the Deep Space Nine set's over there. So yeah, the order stuff and whatever. So yeah, the original story was that Swindle blows up the space bridge because Starscream betrays him and throws him in it. In this version, Swindle just gets transported to the space bridge, so he's kind of there. It leads to the other story too. This is Deal of the 24th Century. Deal of the 24th Century, I believe, was Lizard and Doug Month again. I think that was them. And it leads into the next story, because after they try to fix the space bridge, Galvatron shows up mad, and he gets thrown into the space bridge as well and sent over to where the Bird of Prey is. So he gets trapped by the Bird of Prey. He's injured. And that's the Ambassador Sauron story. That's Salvage. So this one, and then Salvage. So this one has a lot of, there's sort of your Swindle Hound talking to, we haven't seen Hound since G1, so really, he could be anything, really. So, yeah, so he's an alternate Rebel Hound, and a Renegade Hound, probably more like the GoBot version. Although he is a Transformer, he's a Hound, but he's sort of an alternate version. And it's not some kind of weird message about the military or anything like that. It's just, he's Hound, acting kind of like Swindle would act. Yeah, well, similar voice, too. Unfortunately, very close to the voice of Nog. So, it'll be interesting. So yeah, I'll play Nog with more of a lisp. Just slightly, so that, we'll do that. Yeah, so we have the link up with the two stories is just that brief little thing. They're trying to get back to Earth. In the second half, Salvage, the Bird of Prey is trying to get to Earth. So this is going to be the Emmett Till trying to get to Earth, and then we're going to go back to the Bird of Prey, heading in the same direction. The time warp. Now they turned up the temporal shields after the temporal timeline was changed slightly. So even though she warned them the temporal shields are up, it didn't work. The timeline is fractured. So that's what's going on. The universe is fractured by the timeline, thus alerting another race of cybernetic beings, cybernetic bioengineered beings, the Borg, who will be notified on page 41 or so that there is something out there they need to check out. The Borg. Anyway, so yeah, that's it for the evening. We started real late, but we got all the sets set up. So yeah. Okay, this is the 30th, and we are going to do a reshoot of Sandstorm's lines, so he's not blurry. He was blurry. So we have to do his lines. I'm not sure which lines are blurry, but inevitably his lines are blurry. So yeah, there's that. So it's just him standing there while the space warp simmers around him, and kind of, but not on him, because that's what made him go blurry. So here is Sandstorm's lines, and we're going to go to April 1st, and we have Kitty. Hi, Kitty. Oh, Kitty. April 1st, yes. So, yeah, this interrogation scene between Viticola and Hound. Viticola, of course, is Odo. And Hound. Yeah. So, let's do it. Yeah. Yep. Well, this here is the second act just done. And we got second act of what amounts to 4 acts, basically. It's a movie. Transformers meets Star Trek meets Transformers. Starship Locations meets Transformers. We've just completed basically deal with the 24th century, which was one of the earlier rejected stories. I had to use it here because we're going to make a Star Trek crossover Transformers. We have a little bit of assimilations as well. Both are Lizard and Doug Munth that wrote the stories originally. The second one that's coming up is the newer one, the 2006 one, Ambassador Sauron's story, Salvage, in which Galvatron has been blasted out of the ship and he's floating. Apparently, yeah, we made this a little clearer than in the script. Basically, everybody fell through the space bridge and they're all where they need to be. So Galvatron's in the right universe, and they're there too. It's in flux. So we encounter the other universe. Yeah, so cool. Hi, kitty. Anyway, so yeah, this is it so far, and yeah, for some reason the first 12 pages of this took forever to get done. Not because we couldn't, but just other things were constantly coming out. We were able to knock out this 20 pages in a day. We could have done the whole thing in a day. The other half, but yeah, we did another whole other act in a day. We could have had the other days to do the whole act, but they kept slowing it down. Kept going, oh, there's another act. We had to do this other thing and other act in a day. So. Anyway, so now on the 2nd of April, it's complete. All right. Yeah. So there you go. Yeah. Last here's Clint Cowpoke, and this is a bit making of. We didn't get to start filming until 6 o'clock, so this is a short one. But tomorrow we get a full day to do the whole thing, do some more. We got to the end of the 3rd act. Well, we almost were at the end of the 3rd act last time, but actually kind of weren't. Now we got to the end of the 3rd act. So yeah, there's 4 acts in this particular movie, so it's not a 3-act play, it's a 4-act play. Because on the end it's assimilations. Yeah, so there's like 2 short stories in the middle, and there's like a bookend story in the beginning and the end. So basically Act 1 kind of is the story that gets everyone there. And then the 2nd act sort of is the one about the act about the sale of the 24th century, and the 3rd act is basically 3rd and the 4th act. 3rd and part of the 4th act are this other one, this Salvage episode with Galvatron. And then I guess the 4th and 5th, 4th and the rest of the 5th, even though there shouldn't be 5 acts, but I guess there are assimilations. So yeah, there's not all of assimilations though, because we did a lot of assimilations as part of the saga of the Fallen Kingdoms and the saga of the Scythe last season on the Transformers Mush. So we already did it before, but we didn't do it as Star Trek. We did it as Mush. So here is the Star Trek version. Yeah, so there will be a giant board thing. I don't know how we're gonna film that, but but the Enterprise transforming into a Transformer. No, we're not doing that. We're not gonna copy a comic book. We're trying not to copy the comic book at all, and we're going to. I was going to address right here that even though this writer who wrote Salvage, who is called Sauron, Ambassador Sauron, he doesn't understand quite how the characters actually acted. I think the Sale of the 24th Century guy had Odo and Cisco down pretty well, but everybody else kind of not. Didn't have the Major right. He didn't have Kira quite right. So we changed all those people to our characters because it worked better. So because we don't know anything, because if they didn't seem right, then we're always our characters. Cisco is suddenly Javan Tal, the ancestor of Indira Tal. The Odo is Polavito, and that kind of thing. This one over here is supposed to be Kirk, Spock, and McCoy. This one's Vince, of course, Mahoney, and as Kirk, and Tendi is McCoy, basically, and not Scotty, but a Scotty-like guy. The Shadow Dancer is is basically Spock. And he is logical, so it makes sense that he would say what he says. So it does work. He's not a Vulcan, but he'll mention stuff. I did make some changes to the script. I did cut out some long-haired lines that are coming up later. And I want to make sure that they weren't in there because they were long and boring. So Vince is behaving in a way that is not consistent with Kirk. Wouldn't have like that. Tendi would not be not break her Hippocratic oath as the doctor to decide to like literally break into the chest of the patient on the bridge and pull out the black hole device they need. That doesn't make any sense. I guess Calicat actually commented on black holes today on the Trek Core site. Said something about that. A black hole maker is kind of impossible. He didn't comment on that, but the idea of a black hole maker, kind of. The David J. Abrams movie, a black hole is basically not a sink well. I know in the early description of the black hole, when they described black holes in the 70s, they described them as a funnel well going down into gravity, into space-time, like space is flat, and it would go down into the inkwell like it was a wormhole. And apparently even Star Trek 2009 was like, oh, it's like a wormhole maker. It'll zap the bad guy to where he needs. It'll zap the bad guy to where he needs to go and everything. And it'll be like, yeah, sure, totally. And he was saying that's not how a black hole works. Megatron also had a black hole gun. His cannon is allegedly connected to a miniature black hole. That's in his bio, which is ridiculous. But they could have just said a neutron star. That would have been fine. Which also wouldn't work, but a black hole, no. Wouldn't he be completely indestructible? Yeah, no. Yeah, but that's in the bio, and it's in the Transformer guide, too. The guidebook. It's in there. Yeah, all the tech specs from G1 are in there. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of weird. But in this story, it's science fiction, and Megatron is a black hole device, little mini black hole device. And it doesn't make sense, but hey, it's science fiction. And also, they made the assertion in the story here. I'm going to ramble on about science and physics in a sci-fi story. The other thing is the dilithium. Sauron is wrong about how dilithium crystals work. And he could watch any number of Star Trek episodes, mainly Next Generation, that explained how dilithium works. Mainly Next Generation. Yeah. Scotty and Next Generation. The recrystalline structure, all that stuff. In Star Trek 4, when Scotty recrystallizes the dilithium crystals using nuclear energy, which doesn't make sense either, but he does it. He gets nuclear particles, charged particles to recrystalline crystal. Didn't have replicators back then. Couldn't do it. Dilithium does not power something. Dilithium is not specifically energon. Dilithium is a catalyst. It's not the fuel, it's a catalyst. It controls the reaction between the matter and antimatter containment. It's a made-up space MacGuffin exotic particle, exotic material. It controls the reaction between matter and antimatter. It makes the engines on the Starship Enterprise work. So yeah. That's what it is. So it's not the fuel itself, it's the reactant. I'm assuming that with impulse drive that it's some sort of fusion, and that's nuclear, basically. So they have that too, but that wouldn't give them warp drive. Assuming they have other kinds of warp drive. Now there's other kinds of warp drives in sci-fi. There are several things, singularity drive or whatever, like the Romulans use. But you have small miniature black hole inside the ship, which would be effectively impossible too, is also dilithium, and it wouldn't be. So I changed a few lines. So instead of it saying it is the fuel, it says it controls the reaction of the fuel. It's a catalyst. It would be like it wouldn't be gasoline per se, but it would be like gasoline would be the fuel. It would be like the oil and the other products in it that control the reaction of the gasoline. If you think of it as gasoline, it's like the parts inside that are controlling the reaction. Otherwise, any combustion engine would go and blow up. The thing is controlling the reaction in the engine. And and rocket fuel has nozzles and devices to control the reaction of a rocket. Otherwise, it would blow up. Sometimes rockets blew up on the pad, like some Russian rockets back in the day. And the Challenger shuttle, it had a leak in the O-ring thing, and it blew up in the 80s. So they couldn't control the reaction. The reaction went haywire. So those were containment bottles in that case, like a big nozzle for engine. So dilithium would control a reaction if you had such a device. It must be inert in some way. It must not be matter. It must not be antimatter. It must be some kind of sort of a weird inert substance that when put together controls the outflow and outgassing it, so to speak. It doesn't make sense, but otherwise the antimatter would blow up in the magnetic bottles in the Enterprise and vaporize the ship. And a warp core breach. Warp core breach, you breach containment of the warp core, which presumably has antimatter in one part and matter in the other part to get together. The dilithium chamber. Kind of makes sense, kind of doesn't. But Galvatron here has it in his gun. He's able to control the reaction in his gun. Not blow up a planet when he fires his gun, because obviously it's controlled. Otherwise, Megatron would be indestructible and would just fire his gun and all the Autobots would go boom. Just explode everywhere. There was an episode of the old Transformers show in which he had an antimatter gun that somehow made him more powerful. It wouldn't have been more powerful than what he had, but okay. Antimatter gun. And they held the antimatter for some reason as okay, here's a little behind the scenes making of. There are blocks of text. This guy lectures for a page and a half or two on the nature of the Andorians and the Transformer War and exposition about either or. No Romulans, oddly enough. We don't need that in this story. We just don't need any of that. Let's go right to... There's no reason to read what would amount to another 15 minutes of dialogue of them not doing anything really, just in that room. Well, let's not do that. So we're not doing that. So note that. Going on. Well, this here's Clint Cowpoke. Now that we was able to complete filming, to do a full day of filming today, we were able to complete all the bridge scenes in the movie. And we did this last bit for 19 minutes. Well, it's not 19 minutes. When you put it all together, it's going to be like 6. Which is the ending scene. We were able to jump to the ending scene 20 minutes at the end of the script, because we got to 20 minutes to the end of the script. The hardest part is yet to come, actually. The 20 minutes of them on Earth in assimilations. Which is hardest and easiest at the same time. It's probably easiest to set up, but it's hardest in post-production to make it look good. So we have a summer movie here, and it's a blockbuster. It had to come. Well, we can't make any money off it, so it's just gonna come out free. Transformers, Starship Locations meets Transformers. Also would address the moral ambiguity of the story, because they got kind of shady and dark in their places where they probably shouldn't have. Anyway, I got a discussion about the Picard show in here. But I just had to explain about the millennials. Like I explained about black holes last night. Got something in here that isn't just me rambling about how to put sets together. That's not interesting. But yeah. But yeah, we have a full cast and an ambiguous story in which we have sort of they were both from 2002 and a 2006 story called that dealt with the Transformers the movie. The third one, the Sauron one, Ambassador Sauron one, was a salvage. Kirk and Spock were acting really strange in this story. If this was a Star Trek story, I would have rejected it because Spock was not acting like Spock and McCoy was not acting like McCoy, acting like some sort of millennial angry guys that wanted to like take the brains out of what's his face. Which is why in the story I made it Mahoney and Shadow Dancer, because we know nothing about their backstory. We get a little bit of it from the giant story in the other one, but yeah. Mahoney's morally ambiguous to begin with, partly because he's kind of drunk and he has issues. So he has those issues that we're talking about, but it's kind of obvious what the issues are. He's got issues and problems with his like his stuff, with the boobs, I guess, and other things. And Shadow Dancer is an ex cult member, so he's got all this stuff about cults and stuff, and because he would be especially affronted by Galvatron and their sort of cult like group. And even though it would be morally ambiguous or even criminal to break into him and take his black hole chamber thing and mess with it, he does it anyway because him and his crew are under a duress and a time stamp in the story to do what they're doing. It does make them criminal. It means that so at the end when the good guys and the bad guys are together in this other scene, it's like well they're just on the same level with him. It's like so they left him on the bridge. But yeah, so the message is right there, and it makes sense. It's not just them going, "Oh, we're gonna mansplain you." No, no, no. They're all being mansplained. Everybody is being mansplained. Even Tendy's all like, yeah, what am I doing? Yeah, maybe they're under some sort of duress. Maybe something's controlling the situation, and in order to even have them meet the Transformers, they have to be a little ambiguous. And I see what Sauron was doing in the story. I don't know him, but I see what he's doing in the story. He's like, well, if they actually had captured damaged Galvatron from the Transformers movie, which is what it was originally about, meeting Star Trek 4, which doesn't make any sense. In this version it does because it's a different bird of prey, a different crew, and a different Galvatron that has been adrift in space. And in this version we get to see how we got adrift and they're going after him. So the Quintessons actually do want to get him back. So they actually are the ones that need to get him back. So yeah, that actually works. So that works. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, they're actually trying to get him, and they have to get him. And the reason the humans can mess with him is because he's damaged. He's been chucked out into space and damaged, so they can make him immobilized, basically, so he can't do much. Because otherwise, he would just blow up the bird of prey and kill everybody and take off. Yeah, so leaving the playing field. And Hound is about 10, 15 feet tall, and he's not in that other story, and he doesn't do the, and he doesn't he's not as much of a threat. Yeah, so he's in the bar and whatever, and Nog in that one is behaving as Quark because it's the duress of the universe that's changed them a little bit. So they're not the main crew. They're sort of the crew playing the mirror crew, kind of like in the Picard show. But before the Picard show, this script was finished around the time that the show premiered. However, the script was based on 3 other stories from the 2000s, so it way predates Star Trek Picard. And the tie-in stuff, although we did know some of what Picard was going to be about, season 2, I tried not to do that, but I think we might have done it a little bit, just by accident, just by osmosis. But yeah, consider it a parody of Star Trek Picard. If you want to. It's not, but you could consider it that. Like, okay, yeah, it's a bottle show too. They're on a ship. Till the planet stuff, which is the last 20 minutes. Yep, so that's all for tonight. And no, it's not a Picard parody. Not really. It's its own thing. But the idea of the crew acting morally ambiguous, yes, that is like that.
But I think in the case of the Picard show, the reason it's morally ambiguous is because the writers don't know what they're doing. Whereas this one, I do know what I'm doing, and I'm making the characters slightly different so they can meet the Transformers. Because otherwise they wouldn't meet them and they would just go on. So they have been altered by the circumstance in meet the Transformers. So anyway, because otherwise they wouldn't. Otherwise, this is the crossover of the century. You see. Well, I got not much to say about the end of this. That's a wrap. Put Transformers and Starship meets Transformers together. So that's all I got to say about it, really. Yeah, really bad lighting right here. Oh my goodness. Well, yeah, don't have much to say about it, but we're going to do it now. That's it. This is it. Yeah. So yes, that's an old joke. Yes. So here we have behind the scenes. Shirley Kelly with the model here. Yeah, I looked at the Chimera footage and there was some Shirley Kelly after making footage. You can just add this to the end of the making footage. Actually, there wasn't much. Probably need to add this to it just to give it an ending, because yeah, okay. Model footage, spaceship footage. Looked at the Chimera footage from before, which mainly used the old Tim Cantrell model, and not this one. Broke out this one and did some shots of the ship and the other ones. This is the Art Asylum model of it, which is in the box. I don't know why we didn't use this one, actually. Yeah, this is clearly much different. Clearly supposed to be bigger than the other one. There's always been a scale issue with bird of prey models all throughout the history of Star Trek. Even on the show. The models have gotten bigger and smaller, even between movies. The bird of prey in Star Trek 3 was roughly 50 meters long, and it had a dozen officers and men, so it was a little bigger than a runabout. It was actually quite small, and yet it took on the Grissom and the Enterprise. It would have just been destroyed if the Enterprise hadn't been charged up properly, and it wasn't. Yeah, it was a scout class bird of prey. I think this is a slightly larger one, so this one would be the 100 meter one, maybe 130 meter one, seen in Next Generation. Similar to the one that was in Star Trek Generations, and in Star Trek 6 there was a similar one. However, they used the same footage when they blew up the model of the blown up model from Part 5. Let's see. Oh yeah, okay. In Part 6, they used the same model footage of the ship blowing up that they used in Generations when they blew up the model. Same footage. Lursen Bator's ship was an older one, but larger, apparently. The scale goes everywhere. You see bird of prey is next to the Galaxy-class Enterprise, which is 3 times larger than the original Enterprise. 200 some meters, original Enterprise, 250 meters. Galaxy-class is like 600 and something. It's 3 times bigger meters. A bird of prey that's only 130 meters would be smaller than the original Enterprise, and by about half. And and would be no match for the Enterprise, the original one, and the Galaxy-class no match for that either. So clearly, the one in Generations was bigger. It was the larger version, which may be a third larger than the other version, 350 meters, something like that. But still, that's not very big. It's just a little bigger than the Excelsior. So, yeah, Lursen Bator had a trick there, too. And here's the Klingon bird of prey. As you can see, it's in attack mode. You can go like this. And you can put it in this mode, too. There's another attack mode. Yeah, we didn't have this model in, but I can see why you didn't. It doesn't go all the way up. Jammed. I'm not going to force it and break it, so... It's supposed to go up further, but it doesn't on this louver, so we're not going to do that. Break it. So yeah, the whales would not have been able to fit in the Bounty from Star Trek 4. This cargo hold, weapons hold thing, way too small for that. However, it just so happens that an 11-meter Decepticon would easily be able to fit in the cargo bay. So, Galvatron is in the cargo bay. See. Yeah, so... Kacha Capchet Galata Quebec. Dosh! Javak being attack and Dosh being fire. Yes. Klingon blah ta kla kla. Success in battle. They speak a little Klingon. Made up language. Yes. So yeah, bird of prey. And the Emmett Till. Yeah, the Emmett Till. Yeah, I got the camera set. But yeah, the tub down there's it lit up. That's what it looks like. All lights shining on it, and you can see the edge of the stage. So it actually does have sort of a. I should do a review eventually of this, but not now. Yeah, there's the Emmett Till. You can see that it's parts. It's Tubman class. Ew, this is Starship Emmett Till Tubman class. It's the Emmett Till B or A. So there was an earlier one that got destroyed in 2390 something, 2396. It also has a feature that is not used in the movie. It has saucer step. So does the Chimera. Comes out of the sun. Comes a warp sled and saucer section. What's nifty is, like the Chimera, they're on the same space platform, so they're nifty. They have it has impulse engines, but it has a warp sled. So even though it separates from the main ship, it can act like a scout class vessel, and it can get home on warp. Yeah. No, yeah. Here we have dual warp engines. And I suppose I haven't estimated the meters of this thing, but it is huge. It is considerable in size. Like the new Chimera is also huge. The original Chimera was about the length of the original Enterprise, or slightly larger, more like Voyager. This is the length of at least the Sovereign class Enterprise E. At least, if not bigger. It's probably comparable to the Chimera class warship in Star Trek Online. It's comparable to that. And yeah. And because it's wood, it's kind of hard to make it look like the warship. Now, to clarify, we did not design the warship. Some fans of our show worked for, and some still do, online, and they put Chimera in there with my permission. And someone else designed it for the show. But we should be on the game anytime, and we'll do that. Yeah. So yeah, we're not on the game yet. So if you think we're on the game, we're not on the game. Yeah, this is Star Trek meets Transformers. This is the spaceship footage. And we need to shoot some more footage because Chimera, I watched the Chimera footage, and there's very little of the ship and the Klingon ship. There is, in this movie, there's about half an hour of story where there's a Klingon ship, and they're on a Klingon ship, and it meets another ship, Quintesson ship, which is another vessel we can just use from their library. But in this case, that's sure Klingon bird of prey. In the dark again because you can see the side of the set. Yeah. Yeah. So it's all footage from that, and yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah. So that's kind of, this is added to the making of on the end, making some ships. Post-production stuff really were done. There was really no ending. Cowpoke just kind of ended it. The story has an ending. It's just that he didn't think there was any reason to do a little more. I think the ship stuff, you can either add it to that or post stuff. You can add this to maybe, or add it to the story. The story's not done yet. It's in post. There are very few shots of just straight up fan models of Klingon birds of prey flying around. Most of them, it's footage from the other sources. The Trek Yards has probably one of the more complete ones. They did a whole rundown of the Klingon bird of prey many years ago, and yeah, we used some of that in there last time we had it appear. But we didn't this time. There's no footage from it. This footage we have heavily edited footage from AM3's zombie apocalypse story. Heavily edited footage. GTA 5 crashes of fake car crashes, very much fake. Heavily edited. The Cybertronic robot dance guy, all done up. That's in there, fake footage, mainly to put laser gun effects in that don't exist. And this, yeah. Because otherwise, at the end of the story, when they're fighting the Boer zombies, you don't have any footage of them fighting any zombies. Very similar to the ending of Trends Tech, in which we had no footage of the Veritex actually shooting anything. And had to put them in. And that was back when we were trying to animate like cell by cell, which was insane. And that was when we had relatives on the set putting together stuff. Yeah, Sap One Productions was involved in that before they were famous, and then left. Yeah, so and then the start of their fame, and then infamy. No, and then they're yeah. Just so it doesn't copy Star Trek Picard Season 2. It doesn't. We made sure that we weren't copying Season 2. We're going to the 21st century like they are, but in a different way in this story. And also we figured out that since there's a later story in the other series, the Transformers Lexicons, involving Jazzy and Jazz, it's a sequel to the other Jazzy story. And it will also involve Rakshi. Of course, Rakshi will return, or some version of her. But also we will be introduced to a new character, Road Rage, who will play the Jazzy character, which makes a whole lot more sense. Yeah, just do that. And another purchase was another. It's another story, but yeah, there's another. She's not showing up in this one. She's showing up in the Mexicans. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense. Because Jazz didn't really have a sister. Trax does. Her name is Road Rage. So it'll be Trax. Yeah. But that's later. And yeah, so that's exciting. So there's a new Skids toy that arrived, so we have that. We didn't get, we got a Road Rage at the convention. We got Skids now, too. So, yeah, so cool. We got the Legacy Skids. Yeah. Kind of sounds like we got the Skids, but no, it's a Transformer. Kind of looks like the truck. No, got it from the other timeline. Well, yeah, a black hole is a point of singularity, basically, in which no light or energy can escape. So, big enough black hole and nothing can escape it. Like it's sucked into it. You can have a solar system orbiting a black hole if it's small enough. Well, and the planets that keep orbiting the black hole, and they won't get sucked in. But if the star gets close enough, bits of it get sucked in. And not into an inkwell or a sinkhole or something. In Interstellar, they describe the black hole as a sphere with an event horizon that looks like it's from all angles. So the event horizon is everywhere. It's not that you can fly up on a plane straight up on the equator and go into a hole. It's not a hole. It's a sphere. 3 dimensions, 4 dimensions technically, all the way around. It's a sphere all the way around. And so
So you can't fly around it and fly up to it like you're in orbit of it. You would be sucked into the event horizon and spaghettified. And you wouldn't go into a hole. What would happen is you would hit the singularity and be atomized after you were spaghettified. And you would splatter onto the surface of the singularity, which has not left the universe. It's still there. That's why the Hawking radiation on the larger ones and quasars is spitting stuff off the hole. So there is a way to get off the hole if you happen to be plasma energy. But yeah, so that's what CalCap meant. Yeah, but that stuff has been destroyed. And that information is gone. So it's not that the matter in the universe held its shape and was then Hawking radiation to back out off the hole. No, that thing got turned into atomic particles and then spat back out. Now, if they could encode the information in those atomic particles, then that might survive, but I don't think so, because you're at the speed of light and you're spitting it back out. Now, if you got a quasar or a white hole, you got the opposite of that. You got an astrophysical jet shooting energy out into space. Like, that's not a black hole. That's something else. That's a white hole. That's different. A white hole you can't get into. It's constantly spitting stuff out of it. But yeah, Star Trek 2009 was wrong in every way. Not only that, you could not see the destruction of Vulcan from another solar system where Delta Vega was. You could not see that. You can't even really, when you go out to and they sort of thought of the physics of that right away, because even if you were on, say, a moon from the distance of the Earth to the moon, and you saw a moon explode, you'd see the moon explode, and it would go, and blow up, but you wouldn't be able to tell details of what exploded. It would just go, the moon is, a moon out in space. If it was a moon of Vulcan, he still would be too far away to tell what happened. It'd be like, oh, this thing just winked out of existence. What happened? And if it was close enough that he could see it, he's in orbit of it, and he's dead in about 2 minutes. Or maybe less, as everything goes along with it into the singularity. And also, a singularity can't do that. There's no such thing as red matter that can create any kind of matter that could create a black hole. That does not make sense. It can't. It can't do that. There's not enough mass in the containment field to keep something like that inside itself. I know in the Space Vanguard's ESV series, they used a point singularity created out of neutron star material. They also had something similar in Canary Space. Something similar. Dense material created. It wasn't a black hole, because that would rip through the chip. It was more like neutron star material, which is a little more manageable. You can have control. Again, it was a catalyst to control a matter-antimatter reaction of some kind, to curve subspace in some way, like warp drive. Allow the ship to fold space or warp. But yeah. But in this story, energon and liquid energon are somehow also, a black hole is not a sinkhole. Remember that. A black hole is not a sinkhole. Anyway, it is a sphere from which no light can escape. It is a sphere. You cannot just fly into orbit of it. Now then you'd say, oh, what if Sagittarius A star? What about that? Well, Sagittarius A star is a massive black hole. And a supermassive black hole that's the size of a solar system is so large that things can orbit it and not get sucked in. That's why. So those things, if they got close enough, they would get sucked in and destroyed. But it's so big that they just go around it. That doesn't mean they go any faster. That doesn't mean they get launched. Some of them get launched, though. They've looked close at the star and they've seen some of them go. And some of them go. Some of them get launched. But so that's how a black hole works. Which would make Star Trek '09 completely inaccurate. Because they treated it like a wormhole to other timelines, which it wouldn't be. I think the mistake they make there is that they have a. I'm rambling on about black holes. I think the mistake they make there is that that they think because if you approach a black hole, time slows down, so they think that somehow it goes backward, even though at no point does it ever go backward. Now, time slows down for the observer as he's being about to be spaghettified, and you don't actually see him get spaghettified because time and space are distorted in the 4 dimensions. So he just disappears. You don't even get to see him get spaghettified. It's you don't. Oh yeah, you don't get to see that. But you can see the aftermath of somebody getting blasted off of an astrophysical jet in some cases. Like this matter goes from a large, massive black hole. There's one they took a picture of that was doing that. But that was acting more like a white hole, though. Because it was spewing matter out of the galaxy that it was in. So that was a white hole. They're calling it a black hole. That's a white hole. That's a different thing. Quasi-stellar white hole. Yeah. Quasars may be young white holes. Maybe what they are. Because they're behaving completely different. They're shooting matter out, not sucking it in. It would be like, I'm sucking it. Anyway, we're thinking astrophysical jets. They were pointing out they were pointing out on this on Red Letter Media when they were reviewing Picard 4 and 5 episode, and they kept saying, why do they keep jumping around without solving the problems? They just or addressing them even really. They seem like the problem on Discovery a little bit too, on Star Trek Discovery with the well, it's the difference between the man writers and the women writers. Technically, the Star Trek writers, women writers do character development and journeys and stories, and don't really solve the situation. They just do a story, going on an adventure. It's the journey. Man writers, let's blow stuff up. Let's go and blow stuff up, and that's how we solve it. We solve it with a bar fight or a car chase or something, or a bus ride or something. You can tell where all the man parts were included in there. Double a script. And you can tell with the influence of Mark Bernardin as well in there. But on Picard. But not in this one. In this one, you have, it's clearly all 3 guys that wrote it. So yeah, we have battle scenes that have yet to be done. We're going to be using the Bird of Prey model, not the footage from Trek Arts. You got to have a model in there. We have a model, so we're going to use it. Also, yeah, it won't look great, but it's fan film. And the Borg attacking and Decepticons and stuff. Also weird. But yeah, we wouldn't, we wouldn't do that. So what I was saying was Letter Media was frustrated with them bringing up issues about like climate change and burning forests and stuff, and the ice people being evil in the story, the immigration guys are acting evil, the other dystopian future which they just leave abruptly, the other ship that gets destroyed abruptly, that kind of thing, and leaving situations abruptly, changing the subject like it's OCD or ADHD or something. Well, millennials, it's written like millennials would write it, even though most of the characters, people writing in the production team are X-Gen, they're not millennials, and about a third of them have actually seen a Star Trek episode. So I can vouch for that, that they do not have a consultant like Cal Cat on that show. Because if they did, he would have been like, okay, this is what you can't do because it doesn't make any sense. And this is what you should do here. And you can make this look different. Yeah, and I've had millennials discussions with millennials before. I have some nieces and cousins stuff that are millennials, and also encountered them in the coffee shop and stuff. The millennials, we have X generation, those that are born between 1965 and 1985. That's something like that. Anybody after 85, 86 roughly, is a millennial. 85, 86 to 2006. 2005, 2006. Anybody born after 2006 to the current day, to 2015, 20 years. So 2006 to 2026, post-millennials. So the post-millennial. So most of the writing staff on the show are X-Gen, and some are millennials, and there's some post-millennials in there. But very few. So you have the post-millennial conceit, the Y generation, or the millennial conceit, the Y generation, is that, okay, there's an issue. And I'm just going to say it's an issue. I've encountered this a bunch of times. They don't want to tell you what the issue is. There's just an issue. And then they go on to the next thing. They never explain what the issue is. My generation would explain ad nauseum what the issue was. And go into... So it's like, the why me generation does not explain what they're doing. They just say, why me? The why me, the Y generations. They don't explain it. So that's what's going on. That's exactly what's going on in that script. Is they're like, okay, we mentioned angry bartender lady. Next thing. Oh, we've mentioned Gary 7. Okay, next thing. Oh, the Borg Queen's on the ship and she's going to attack. Kill her off. Boom. Next thing. But no, it's in her brain. Next thing. Let's go over to the other thing. Next thing. All that stuff happens, Borg ladies and all that. But it's a parallel universe, so it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But they really should emphasize what's going on. The classic Trek, which were done by baby boomers, classic Trek like Kirk and everybody, baby boomers, those from the born after World War II to those born just up to the 60s. So the baby boomers, those born after World War II. They tended to be more realistic about their stuff, and they tended to say if they had a situation on a planet, they would discuss it and then either leave it ambiguous or solve it. So they'd go like, okay, we're going to beam down to this planet where this captain guy is he's crazy and he's decided to adopt Nazis. That is bad, Mr. Spock. We must stop that. That's the plot. Or there's a computer down on the planet and it's taken over. Let's stop that. And then go there and they stop it. Whereas nowadays, 50 years later or so, they're all like, no, we don't want to stop it. We just want to talk about it and then move on. So you have this weird sort of, well, we'll talk about it and move on. Yeah. But you didn't solve the problem. You didn't solve the case. You just moved on. You just threw it under the rug and just kept going. I mean, the bus scene I get, though, because they did stop the bus in the Picard episode. So they did. That scene they did. That did end right there. And they ended with them escaping. Now, of course, Red Letter Media could have put... They could have shuffled the episode pieces around and made that the end of an episode instead of the middle beginning of another one. That's the problem with Discovery Season 4 as well. They kind of did that. But yeah, so yeah, well. Look at that old Chimera footage. It was funny. It was 2019. It seemed like forever. But I think some of the footage is from 2016. Like the Klingon footage is back in 2016. And so there's one part where this Klingon guy comes in there with a gravelly voice and he's like, yes, sir. And it's very obvious who that is. It's Martin Roadkill playing a Klingon. That's pretty awesome. Originally, that figure in that story was going to be Clank was going to be played by Tim Cantrell, but he was not available. So his contribution to the story was a model bird of prey from a convention, which we then painted up and put in the movie. It broke during the movie, and which is why I don't see much of it, because it literally broke. And a piece of it was over here, and a piece of it was over there. But it is in the movie. The other thing we included was in the newer ones, Starship Locations. Near the end of Chimera, I believe they do use it. The Runabout Jacques, named after the street the stories used to live on. It was also from Brian's story. It was a EMT model kit from the 90s that I put together and made it look like give it purple warp nacelles because I wanted to make it have different alien engines. It was never used in these stories, but it is really cool looking. But I put it together and painted it. The Jacques. Then they moved. But yeah, so we have some stuff from that. So
Yeah, the beginning of the early Calcaccio, before the Calcaccio. Yeah, so yeah, we can't really do like 3D animation, and the thing that makes us look the game and go online doesn't work right. I'm not able to the PC or the computer version because I don't really game. I'm not really a gamer. I just look at other people's gaming. Yeah, so I didn't design anything on Trek Online. It's just that somebody who was a fan was like, "Yeah, I like that name. I'm gonna use it." Okay. Yeah. In honor of that, this model looks a little bit like that ship from that. Yeah, and the Chimera looks a little bit like the other one. Looks more like the Odyssey class ship, Enterprise F. But it's not. So the Chimera, the updated Chimera, I believe, is Adventure class, whereas the original Chimera was Phoenix class. First ship being the USS Phoenix, redo Phoenix earlier, much smaller. Yeah, so. And that class of ships was all named after mythical beasts. Like there was a Griffin, Phoenix, and Medusa, and all kinds of different ships. The Medusa was famously the Mary Sue in Starship Locations and Starship, Cal Cat Mark's card ship, and yeah, that was a sister ship to the Chimera. Yes. Star Trek Picard is visiting 2024 in a slightly different timeline, and I still say it has something to do with those overlords. They're still involved somehow, even though they haven't said. There you go. Wait.